Good evening and welcome to the Business of Aesthetics expert panel. At the Business of Aesthetics, your success matters. Tonight's session, AI in your practice, patient communication, automation, and what to never outsource to a bot, addresses one of the biggest shifts in the industry since the dawn of social media. The question isn't whether to adopt AI. It's really how to do it without losing the human trust that took you years to build. I'm your host, Dan Adisha, and alongside our three expert panel, we are going to build your roadmap for AI adoption that actually enhances your patient care. Now, a few quick housekeeping notes to help you get the most of this hour. First, yes, we are recording. You will receive a replay link after the event so you can rewatch and share with your partners. However, do not let that make you passive. The real value is happening right now, right here, live. To make the best use of your time, engage with us. Use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen for specific questions you may want me to ask the panelists, or else use the chat to share your thoughts with your colleagues here. I'll have my eye on both the feeds and do my best to weave in your questions into the conversation as we go along, or else we might tackle them during the Q&A session towards the mid of the event. Now, I'd like to also give a massive shout out to our platinum sponsor and growth partner, Eco Marketing, founded by Naren Arulraja, the very same founder of the Business of Aesthetics community. Now, for nearly 20 years, Eco has helped aesthetic practices owners across the globe stop being the best kept secret in their town. And Eco truly believes that great care deserves great visibility. And here's a quick tip on behalf of our team at Equa. Uh, when it comes to perhaps a patient in your area searches for treatment that you offer, maybe the costs of your Morpheus 8 treatments, or else maybe it's lip fillers before and after. Is your practice the one that is found, chosen, and trusted? Now, with AI giving answers right on screen, search is a bit different than it used to be. But with clear service pages and, of course, good reviews comes a great possibility for you to really enhance your um, growth levers. And along the way, we have a great resource for you to figure out where you are standing in your digital presence and figure out a roadmap that'll help you elevate your growth for 2026. So stick around and we'll deliver it as we go along. Now, as we open our discussion, let's look at our roadmap, or rather the key talking points for tonight. We're going to uncover where AI is already operating in your practice, perhaps without you even not realizing it. And we'll separate the tasks that are safe for bots from those that stay fully human. And we're going to look at real ROI, not just shiny objects. And we'll wrap up by identifying risks and building your 90-day roadmap for adoption. Now, this is a journey from uncertainty to operational excellence. So let's figure out who are going to guide us through this discussion. Our first guest believes that in the age of automation, intention is your only insurance policy against irrelevance. Leslie Tracy is the founder and CEO of Diamond Hands Media, where she helps the top tier of medical aesthetic leaders turn their operational success into industry-wide influence. As an author and host of the Diamond Hands podcast, she has spent over 6 years embedded in this industry, proving the authority is built on one authentic conversation at a time. Tonight, she's here to help us ensure that your AI strategy doesn't just save time, but actually builds your brand soul. Leslie, welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
Great. And our next panelist understands that aesthetic world from the treatment table all the way to the executive suite. Bridget DeBrino, CEO of Belvara Collective, has built her career on the belief that systems should make people feel seen and not just processed. After leading operations for two thriving practices, she now manages the complex back-end logistics for aesthetic entrepreneurs across the country. She is a master at creating systems that support providers so that they can focus on what matters most: exceptional patient care. Bridget, welcome back to the panel.
Thanks, Don. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you here. And rounding out our panel is a systems architect who brings a clinical heart to the high-tech infrastructure. Audrey Campbell is an MPH trained operator and the founder of the Audrey Aesthetic, a leading thought leadership platform dedicated to AI implementation in medical aesthetics. With a background that spans 3 years of med school and 8 years in infrastructure, sorry, plastic surgery and wellness operations, Audrey doesn't just talk about AI, she builds the infrastructure that makes it work. She is here to show us how to translate complex technology into practical tools that your team and your patients will actually trust. Audrey, welcome to the panel.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. With that being said, let's dive into the main Q&A. Right. So my first question is to you, Leslie. What signals show a practice is already using AI in patient communication or marketing before leadership has formally acknowledged it?
Well, I first want to say that, basically, of course, happy to be here, but AI should really improve, efficiency and consistency. And I've talked to both Bridget and Audrey about those things offline. But I really believe that a human remains really responsible for that relationship touch point. But I do know, I don't think any practice can really use AI without having it green lighted, because you do need to actually if you're bringing on a software, they're going to tell you when they're selling to you that there is AI in this, whether it's how they do the charting, or if they're, before and afters, or if they're using some sort of like a lead app in order to generate things. So I don't think any practice can really be using AI without it being something that's known by leadership. Where it may happen is if an employee is using AI to generate emails or something like that to patients, or if someone is doing an unauthorized use of creating, treatment planning software or something, and they're saying, "Oh, let me put together a treatment plan with AI and not let my medical director know that I'm doing this," or have you. So, I mean, those types of things can slip under the radar, but I don't think in most cases that practice leaders have AI in their practice and they don't know about it, except for like incidental things where someone's using it to compose an email, or something like that.
Right. And now when they're composing emails, whether using ChatGPT or something like that, uh, are there any risks to the practice from a liability perspective?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to say first that everyone should consult with their attorney if they want to ask those types of questions. My background is in finance, so I'm very, very clear about what I have scope over and what I do not. So what I would say in regards to that is, I would say do not put any identifiable information about your patient inside any AIs, because that can, we don't know. It's still too new to kind of know what can happen. What if someone, I don't know, hacked the whole entire AI system and there's all this information in there? Who knows? But, I would say if they're using it for those types of things to draft emails, just make sure they're not putting identifiable patient information inside there, so that they don't have any problems if someone looks back later during an audit, if AI audits become a thing. And those that can become a thing in the future. We just don't know yet.
Okay. Now, Leslie, how do you handle a team member who might be using AI to hide their own lack of productivity or skill?
That's an interesting question. In regards to what?
In regards to, well, since AI is most often we are talking about here communication or marketing. So communication
Mhm.
wise, front desk, automations.
I don't think it's so it I don't think if someone's using AI, I actually don't think it's a lack of productivity. I actually think it's a 10xing of productivity. So I think if a business owner sees their team member proactively using artificial intelligence in their workflow, they should be commended, I would say. And they should say, hey, what are you doing here? Can you actually take the reins on this for our practice and kind of be the cheerleader to go in on this and that and this and that. So I don't think, if you're a clinician, for example, it's just like it's only going to audit what you're doing. I know that, clinicians now can, my sister is a doctor, her and her husband, and they use AIs that transcribe their what they talk to you about their patients, and it transcribes their soap notes, right? So I would say if you do see someone using AI and they're using it in a good way, yeah, my time's up. If they're using it in a good way, that they should definitely say, this is cool. Let us know what you're doing. And then they could be a champion of it and maybe pay them a little bit extra to be that AI champion in the practice so that they're accountable for that process in the practice. So
Check, check. Of course, AI, let's take it in that way. And I really appreciate you, Leslie, opening up with that note um, to really align ourselves with AI and to champion those users who adapted early on in the practice. Now, Bridget, where does automation most often damage patient trust when introduced too quickly into perhaps scheduling, follow-up, or front desk communications?
I think all of us can relate to the experience of needing to get an answer or getting insight into something that we need help with, and we just have a computer talking at us, right? And it's like, no, agent, human, give me a human. So, the last thing we ever want to do when we're talking about an aesthetic community that is elective is put a patient in a position where they're screaming at a phone to talk to a human. So I know that in the earlier days of AI adoption, we got excited and people wanted to implement it and they were trying to be efficient. But ultimately, if they didn't sit down and go through that process themselves and really diligently see what it was like and where it was working and where it wasn't, that's the very first way you could lose patient trust or interaction. I was talking to a provider today and we were discussing how different treatments and services can be oops, sorry. Did I freeze? Okay, we're good. Discussing just how different platforms could make or break a moment. If you have their attention for 30 seconds online while they're trying to book something and then your software stops working, you've lost that person. So I think it's just really important to make things as seamless as possible. And we shouldn't be so focused on making it fancy right now. We need to just make it efficient and easy to use and understand.
Can you give us a trust test, the specific scenario where an owner should run through their automated systems to really feel, uh, if it's too robotic?
Yeah, I think it's actually great to have a few people run through the basic process of booking and scheduling and checking out just to see what that's like. Have everybody within their department run through it. So if somebody's more focused on the injectable piece, do that. If somebody's front desk, have them run through all the steps that happen when you're onboarding a new patient or a new appointment is being booked or something to that nature. If you have the experts that are in your team evaluate what an interaction is for things that they were doing or engaging with on a day-to-day basis, you'll get honest and direct feedback. And I think it's so important to make sure that everyone understands, like, we're asking for this feedback so that we can make your life easier, better, and more streamlined. It's okay if something isn't going right. It's okay if something isn't perfectly executed upon. We have to know that so we can make it better. We know it's a little more work up front, but it's going to save you a lot of work on the back end. So just explaining that ultimate goal and why we're bringing it in, I think will make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Now, what if it breaks? So if trust is broken by a bot, what is the human script that you could use to repair it immediately?
Well, we like to hope we're going to know that it broke, right? And that's really one of the biggest fears in this circumstance is that something may happen, you just may not be aware of it. And so I think you need to have a couple things built in. And I know Audrey's a champ at this, so she'll discuss more of this later, but you do need to have checkpoints built into the system so that you're really able to see if something is falling through the cracks at some point and then very quickly get ahead of it. And then if something does fall through the cracks, hey, we're human. We're going to make a mistake. Hey, that's an AI. It's going to make a mistake. Like technology is great until it isn't. Just own it, acknowledge it, be like, we're doing everything to make this better for you. I'm sorry we had a hiccup. Let's figure out how we can move forward. Is there something I can do to turn this experience around for you? I think just honest and direct communication is typically always you're going to be your best friend in these types of circumstances.
Thank you very much for that, Bridget. And we really do to have an honest and a relationship building conversation bypassing the AI. But where AI is used, screening seems to be the best way to go for now. So Audrey, which common AI use cases feel safe to automate early on, but tends to create this hidden risk once real patient interaction begins?
Thanks for leading that up to me, Bridget, as well, too. I was like, just going to talk about that. So the safest thing is, the retention, the rebooking, and the review automatic communications that go out post-visit. Love those. You should have them in every practice. But God forbid you have that one person that has a vascular occlusion and they mark the appointment as closed. The next day, they get a review from you. They get a rebooking. That's the last communication that you want to go out to anyone that has to be escalated, maybe didn't have a great experience or had a medical complication. So there needs to be a flag. You need to talk to whatever EMR or communication system you're using and make sure that there is a flag that you mark that no communications are going to be sent out to this patient post this appointment. And you also need a point person. You need to designate someone that's going to always do that or be on it, because if you're dispersing the charge of it, especially if it's a provider, the little stressed out medical director, you need to have someone that's going to go in immediately and mark that and trigger it not to send any retention review, any post communication to that patient or to anyone that's been escalated or needs a follow-up and a human touch. They don't need a review the next day. Hey, leave us a great Google review.
That's right. Now, how should a practice sandbox a new AI tool before letting it interact with live patients?
Kind of going off what Bridget said too, that you need to test it. You need to book yourself appointments through there, and you need to close the appointment, get those text messages, give it feedback. The AI should be learning what's working well and what's being opened and what's being ignored. But you need everyone to be testing it for all your different appointment types. Any company that you're working with should be able to send you a couple of what they're starting with, sample text messages, emails, communications, and even voicemails that are going out. And you need your whole staff to experience it. We want, friends and family say, we're bringing this on. You need to go through testing, and you want to see also that it's learning and learning what works well instead of just being an automated reminder text that goes out. You want the AI to be learning what works well for your clientele.
Learning what works well for your clientele. Now, vascular occlusion. How do we maintain HIPAA compliance when these safe use cases involve patient health data?
Yeah, so anything that's going to be going out automatically or anything that has HPI in it, if you're going to obviously not send it over text or anything like that, anything that has to do with a medical complication, those should always be flagged to not send out any automatic reminders, anything like that until it's turned back on. But definitely not putting any HPI in automatic reminders in AI or using that to communicate. I wouldn't tell the AI, hey, they had a vascular occlusion, don't send them out. This text, I would mark it. There's many ways, like Pippo, Mevo, they all have ways to flag something for no communications afterwards. But you, as someone that's buying or investing in it, need to make those safeguards up at front when you're evaluating and go over every single situation where you think that someone shouldn't be receiving any communication from you. That's automatic. Anything that needs a human touch, especially if an escalation should not be coming from your automatic EMR or CRM.
Check. So we need to assign a point person for this, as well as ensure that we are flagging it manually to ensure that we are not going overboard with HIPAA compliance and giving everything to AI to do. Thanks, Audrey. Now, Leslie, how do you decide between faster automated responses and slower human replies when patient reassurance or the brand tone is at stake?
Well, yeah. So going back to what Bridget and Andre has been talking about, it's like you do have to test your AIs, right? Because if you don't, you're going to have a problem. And so I do also think that we have to separate. So we just have some context. There's the generative AI. So there's four things. There's generative AI. Obviously, we know I love me some Mid-Journey or whatever. I create nonsense there, not professionally, just for fun. And so that's when you're like generating music now. We have things that generate pictures, all these types of things. And you can find so many platforms. And we have conversational AI, and it's not always agentic. So conversational AI will just be like, you kind of program it with what you want to say. And when you go onto the chat bot, onto someone's website, you're like, hi, I'm looking to book an appointment. And it's going to say, hello, I am Michael, your chatbot, or whatever it says. And then you kind of go back and it's kind of like predetermined answers, but it's not agentic. Then you have like obviously predictive AI, and this is more like what Audrey was talking about. It is going to learn as you go along. So it kind of understands, ooh, these responses, when we said these things, people tended to say this or that. And again, that comes down to the software that you're using for that. So like if you're working with a web developer, you're going to want to ask them these questions like, is your chatbot predictive or is it just conversational? Those are two different things. And if you don't know that, then you're just going to have people talking to a bot that doesn't learn anything, that doesn't flag someone to follow up with you. So you have to be very, very careful when you're choosing, provider to build your website or anything like that, that you understand what that is. And then obviously you have agentic AI. I have a personal assistant personally, but I also have an AI assistant that works along with her sometimes. And she'll check my email. I call her her. Her name is Mona. Leave her alone, okay? But Mona checks my email 3 times a day and flags things. She says, hey, you have, these things. I think you should get back to this today, whatever, whatever. And so kind of gives me a synopsis. So when you're looking to, can you repeat the question? I almost forgot it.
No
I went off
worries,
on a
no worries.
tangent.
So, how do you decide between faster automated responses and slower human replies when patient reassurance and brand tone is at stake?
Yes. Okay. So yeah. So I was going through those different things to let you know that if someone says the side of my face is feeling badly or something, the agent should
Mhm.
know that is time to flag a human person. And then whether that flagged note goes to the medical director or it goes to the lead nurse, maybe you have someone that's on call after hours. That needs to be a thing because what is going to happen more and more as people, because we have people who are falling in love with AI now.
That's right.
You have people that are talking to AI more than therapists now, and so people are going to think if I can talk to my Claude like this or my Chat GPT like this, I'm going to be able to say whatever stream of consciousness into this chat bot and it's going to be able to understand me. And that is going to be, unfortunately, the expectation. I think that's going to come in the next few years, and they're going to expect that immediacy from whatever you have on your website, right?
Mm.
So I do think that you have to differentiate if someone's unhappy. So it has to understand sentiment. If someone's unhappy, if someone's saying something bad about the practice, if someone's talking about a health condition, it should be immediately flagged in that process to someone's phone who is responsible for that. And they're going to, respond pretty much immediately.
Check. So, really, we need to have that point person. And also, I really appreciate you, Leslie, taking the time to really distinguish between these four different types of AI, because a lot of the times we just put it under a blanket term, and then we might get a chat bot thinking that's more of an agent or predictive AI, but that chatbot is not going to flag these, escalations and send it to the point person. So you got to make sure you know what kind of AI you're bringing into your brand. Right. Thanks, Leslie. So, Bridget, what decision rules have helped you separate tasks that can be automated from those that must stay fully human under daily operation pressures?
I do think that this is a case by case situation, and the best thing to do is to just be very open to learning and being open to, again, collecting as much data as possible to make sure that you are making the best decision for your practice. But ultimately, you want to take a look at I believe in setting aside time to optimize your practice. I know that can be hard sometimes for practice owners, for entire practice. It might feel like a waste to dedicate a day to sitting down and really discussing these things and ironing it out. But if you could give one day a quarter to optimization, I promise you that quarter is going to be more optimized. It's going to be more streamlined. People are going to be on the same track, they're going to be going in the same direction. So, in doing that, I would start with looking at what's taking the most time. And you may just need to start with a conversation. Talk to your team. Hey, what is occupying the majority of your day? Is there anything here that you really dislike doing? Is there anything here you really love doing? And then start building solutions based off of those responses. Because if you have somebody who's filling out maybe a sheet that needs to have all the patients' birthdays, and you have to make sure that it's prepared in time so that you can print out all of the different postcards that are going to go out for that month's birthdays. Like, that is absolutely something that can be automated by AI at this point, and that's something that would be able to free up these people's time so that they could be doing things that they are more passionate about that help the practice in another way. And I think the most important thing that we collectively have said this evening, none of us believe that AI is going to replace humans. We believe AI thrives with humans and humans thrive with AI. We think that this is something that is we can bring this together. So we don't have to be afraid of it. We don't have to think that it's going to replace us or our job. It's understandable why some may have felt this way at the beginning, but I think it's clear that that's not the case. But if you could do something in your job that feels more meaningful to you, if you could do something that is more exciting and more rewarding and more fulfilling, why wouldn't we want to take that opportunity by offloading these tasks that are just very, very, very monotonous? It's just the same thing over and over again, repeating. And if we're able to get that done in a quicker way than a human can do it, why wouldn't we take advantage of that?
Can you take us through what kind of framework do you have on that 1 day per quarter? Where are you starting? What are you really looking at so that you can really optimize your workflows?
It's a great question. It's going to start from the top, and I think you have to look at it in a year. Let's sit down. What are your 3 goals for this year? And then you break that down into quarters. Okay, what is our focus for this quarter? How does that focus help us to accomplish 1, 2, or 3 of our goals for the year? Then we bring it down to our team. Okay, team, what are your goals? What are your priorities? What do we want to see? You want to make sure that you have everybody buying in at every stage of this process. And you want to make sure that you have clarity on who's feeling connected and committed and who isn't. And if someone isn't, we shouldn't just assume that they don't care or that they don't want to be there. We should start asking the important questions as to what is disconnecting you right now, because it'd be something so simple. It could just be the littlest thing. And I think an important piece to tie into this is goals that are going to benefit their personal life as well. So again, it's that team communication, understanding the needs and the wants. If you meet this goal that benefits the practice, how does that benefit you personally in your career and also with whatever you are going to receive from this goal being met within the practice?
Okay, thank you, Bridget. I think that's a very clear outline of, a great place to start, really looking at how to figure out the goals that work both for your practice as well as the people that make it. Uh, Now, before we move on to the next question, I do want to remind our audience. There we go. Let me stop that. I want to remind our audience members here. We're here live. Do make the best use of it. In a little bit, we are going to get to some of our registrants' questions. And so please feel free to drop in your own questions into the Q&A section down below. And or else, if you'd like, you can raise your hand and I will be able to unmute you and you can ask your question that way. So once we get into our live Q&A round in a little bit, we can do that. So just giving you a heads up so you can ensure that you're not going to walk away from this conversation saying, or rather thinking, I wish I had asked that. So yeah, I just wanted to make a quick reminder on that. Now, Audrey, when evaluating AI tools, how do you weigh immediate ROI against workflow disruption risks during the early stage of adoption?
So when I'm evaluating any AI tool that I'm going to bring on to a practice, I do know with this that ROI and disruption are going to be sequential. And I have to define what I want my ROI to be. If I go in and I want to improve my rebooking rate, okay, here's my rebooking rate. Here's where I want to be at. So I'm going to go in this and I'm going to measure this. Is that going to take 2 weeks? Probably not. You're going to go through testing, you're going to go through reviewing. It can be something at 3 to 6 months where you're really going back and looking at it and seeing that. So when I'm evaluating any AI, and if I'm just getting into the industry and kind of evaluating those, what is plaguing your practice? What is the biggest thing you want to improve? Is that lifetime value? Is that provider utilization? How is this going to help me do that? And then what am I going to measure as I'm going to really evaluate the ROI? Of course, there's going to be disruption. I, again, would flag someone to be kind of your person that they go to. Let's keep track of how many, escalations come from staff, from patients, from clients, and tracking that. I almost guarantee that your ROI of a little bit of disruption is way more than the inaction of not having AI. Like Leslie and Bridget were both talking about, those repetitive tasks that you're having your front desk do for retention, having all of them pull liabilities, having them send a text, hey, you have this membership balance. What could they be doing in that time if your AI is already reminding people they have a balance, they have, a package left or anything like that? They could be planning and really contributing back to your practice in such a meaningful way that I think that outweighs any disruption that you're initially going to have. It's not just associated with AI. If you bring on a new EMR, if you bring on anything else, there's going to be that disruption, but they're going to appreciate that and, speak to what they want to do. They probably don't want to be pulling all of these, member birthdays and sending out postcards. Maybe they really like the Instagram. Maybe they want to learn more and, do cute Instagrams or anything like that. So I think the ROI on any of this is going to far outweigh any disruption bringing on a new AI tool.
Okay. Now, how would you manage the shiny object syndrome in a team that wants every new AI tool that they see on TikTok?
Yes, yeah, and they see like they'll come, all the salespeople always reaching out. So I always start with, what do you want to improve? What are your KPIs? Like if you have a great rebooking retention rate, maybe that's the last thing, the last layer. So I really evaluate what's plaguing your practice. Where do you want to go there? And start with that and start with one thing and then measure that in 30, 60, 90 days. And then you can do feedback, this is what we want to change, but I wouldn't start with everything else, offloading. Start with something that you really want to improve when you're looking at, and then find a tool for that. You can start to layer in everything else after that, but you really want it to show you an ROI is the biggest thing. You want to measure how well it's doing. You would never bring on a new employee and not measure how well they're doing.
That's right. So you are looking at AI as a new employee, is it?
Yes, I guess so.
Almost. Amazing. It's definitely an asset. So just like any other asset, you do definitely have to track accordingly. And I really like this part about you mentioning having a champion, a point person to really be responsible to track, measure, and just be aware of what's going on with your AI. Right. That being said, now, I do have a quick message from our team at Echo Marketing here. ROI isn't just about saving a few minutes of staff time. It's about whether that technology actually moves the needle for your growth. And as we talk about moving the needle, we have to address one of the biggest ROI leaks uh, most aesthetic practices are facing today. I've got a gift from our sponsor, Echo Marketing, for everyone here tonight, a complimentary one-on-one marketing strategy meeting. Here's the question we'll answer for you. When someone in your city searches for Botox near me, Morpheus 8 costs, lip fillers before and after, are you the practice that gets found, trusted, and ultimately chosen by both the AI and the person searching? In your strategy session, you'll sit down with a senior marketing analyst who already works with thriving aesthetic practices across North America. You'll get a live audit of how you can attract more clients, build your reputation, and grow sustainably. The marketing analyst will actually spend several hours researching your online presence, your competition, your local SEO, everything. And they'll come to the call ready to walk you through custom recommendations just for your practice. This session is designed to help you answer those questions and fix anything that's not quite working. It's usually a $900 valued session, completely complimentary for you tonight. You'll see a QR code on the screen there. You can scan that with your phone to book your session or check the chat for direct link. It'll take less than a minute to book. Now, availability is limited since, as I mentioned, there's real research that goes into every audit and into your local market. Perhaps here's a way to think about offers like this. What's the risk if you say yes? Honestly, it'll just be your time. There's no obligation whatsoever. But what's the risk if you don't? You might be missing out on something that could really help you grow your practice. So I'll leave that with you, but truly I encourage you to grab this opportunity, book your session with Tekwa. It'll be time well spent. Now, let's get into some of the questions from our registrants. Right. So one of the founders have asked, how can solo location owners get comfortable with AI? Now I'm opening this to the whole panel. Anyone can take a jab at it. We can start with Leslie.
I mean, I would say it's like anything else that you're learning, and you're great at learning if you're in medical aesthetics because you're an MP, MD, RN, what have you. So you're amazing at learning. So I would take that learning and do the same thing with AI. And it's like, almost kind of this is what I do when I want to. I nerd out and I go like a deep dive into a subject. I actually create a curriculum for myself. So my studies didn't end in college. I still learn like that all the time. Then I have books that I read and everything. So I would say understand where, like Audrey said before, where you're having the biggest challenges. And what I have found when I have worked with like, a solo practice, and we don't do that anymore. We don't work with solo practices anymore. But when we did, I would see that someone would just be overwhelmed with sometimes charting. They'd be like, oh my goodness, I'm staying up until 10 o'clock charting or what have you. And, after seeing patients all day, and I didn't eat. And so they're just like flat out. So maybe you start with some sort of assistant, or if you work with an EMR service that does have ambient charting. So when you're actually talking to a patient, it's actually taking down notes and putting it in your chart for you. Maybe that's a good place to start. And also, I would say use it for little things. Like you can say, okay, I offer, if you're smaller, I offer these treatments. Maybe you kind of plug it in and say, okay, if someone comes in with this is what we usually recommend. And so you can make a treatment plan, AI or what have you. I know I did that for one of our clients. It was just something that we were like beta testing. But,
Okay.
So she was like, okay, person's like 25 and is presenting with this, and then would bring out all the things that she should do according to her treatment philosophy, right? So I would say start small, definitely, and start with the thing that gives you the most trouble. don't overwhelm yourself, because I personally believe what's going to happen is that there's going to be a new subset of practices coming out saying we don't use AI. And people are going to go there. I do think, because I'm already seeing it with certain magazines and things like that. They're saying AI was not used in this process. And they're attracting a certain type of person who likes that slow type of thinking. So I wouldn't overwhelm yourself, but sorry, last thing I'm going to say, there's something called efficiency trust and there's something called relational trust. Efficiency trust, those are the things that you automate, handling the first layer of intake, scheduling, reminders, maybe things, those have, but relational trust, that can never be duplicated with AI. And that's just person to person, emotions, feelings, pricing nuance, all those things. So if you try and outsource those things, you're going to be in a big pickle from a human to human perspective. So that's all I
Absolutely.
gotta say.
Especially to AI. Um, Bridget, Audrey?
Yeah, I think that, when you are on your own in a solo practice, that's all we really work with right now, with the exception or very small practices in that capacity. I will say that the one benefit is that you don't have a billion hands in the automation that are trying to make it work. So you don't have as many factors to consider as a practice that has, like, say, 10 to 15 different providers in different capacities. So it's much easier for you to have a really good pulse on what's happening and how people are engaging and responding. You are just by nature going to have that more intimate relationship. Like, to Leslie's point, you can't replace that. Like, being able to talk to your patient, know them, know what nuances are going on in their life, and then tie that into your visit with them or your experience with them, that's huge. So you're going to be able to see where you're able to fill the gaps a little easier. And then you're going to know quite quickly if those gaps are actually being filled or if they're broadening, because those patients think that they're your best friend and they're going to talk to you like they're your best friend, and they're going to give you that honest feedback because they're used to a certain cadence. So whenever you change something, it will give them pause, and then typically it's just human nature to give feedback on what that is. But I think that if you can use it for things that you have to remember, right? If you could almost think of AI like a checklist, and you could just take that mental load off of yourself. When you think of a busy day and you're like, okay, I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to do that, half of the work is remembering all the things you have to do. So if you could even just find a way to help you streamline your brain and put these things into more of a actionable list, that means it has the
Hmm.
human element, but then it also takes away some of that brain power that is so important for the other things that you have to do in your day to day.
Yeah. Why not use the memory on the computer to
Yeah,
really augment all of those
exactly.
tasks on your head? Audrey, any tips for our solo location owners?
Going along with both Bridget and Leslie, I started playing around with AI in my personal life. I'm like, what can I automate? She has her AI agent that goes through her email. I have the same thing. I also created an AI agent to sign me up for Pilates classes because I was always missing out on those and it was a big stressor. So I made sure I use those things in my personal life to, snap a photo of my fridge. What can I make tonight? Things like that. And so once I started using it and being comfortable and finding out what it can do for me and how it can give me my life back, then I can translate that into my practice. So again, if you're spending late nights um, writing out everything, or you're feeling like you're not getting that one-on-one during the consultation, you're on your iPad or writing, why not bring an AI scribe in? It's going to be accurate, there's so many options for it, and that can save you so much time but also make you have that personal connection with your patient that's coming in, that you are using AI. You don't have to sit there and type away and write away. You can really create that personal connection also with your staff. Like, what is bogging them down? What is something that's repetitive? Anything that's repetitive that doesn't need that human touch, like sending out automatic text, everything like that is something that can just alleviate you in your personal life, in your work life, and for your staff as well.
And if I could just
Amazing.
build on that too, real quick,
Go
because
ahead.
She brought up a good point, things that are just repetitive and task oriented and things along those lines, but also things that are heavily data focused. Like that is really where AI can shine. We are just on overload. We are constantly getting data that we have to process on a regular basis. And the data is one of the most important things to your business and to your success as you grow and evolve. So if you can plug AI in to tracking patterns, to tracking numbers, to tracking how certain shifts that you're doing in your day to day are affecting your bottom line. Those are things that AI excels at far beyond humans in a much more efficient and time sensitive way because it's able to just pick up on these nuances and you can program it to what those nuances are if it's something super specific. But that is one way that it really, really can shine for you in your practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask that question because we had been circling back and back towards being very intentional on where to use AI and figuring out what is the most troublesome aspect of your practice. And I think we had great answers here on really where to look at, right? Um, and we have Justin in the chat saying that fantastic session. Thanks. Is there anything that is really working for converting the leads that come through investment in SEO using AI? Anything from experience, any tools or solutions that's working? Justin, if you don't mind, I really have a great tool for you, which is our sponsors marketing strategy meeting. Just to answer your question, when AI is being used in SEO efforts, you do have to be careful in that, since Google with now their Crux UI, instead of using EAT, it really depends, and they're much more able or they're much more efficient at figuring out AI content itself, and that flags your your SEO efforts and will deter you from being ranked number one or else being even recommended when AI is being used to figure out the treatments that you are offering at your practice. So, Justin, I would highly recommend you to book that marketing strategy meeting with our sponsor, Equa. They're working with over 500 healthcare practitioners, and they really have a lot to say about that. But I do want to open this to the panelists as well. So please go ahead.
I'll jump in on this. There are two companies that I really have enjoyed and that I think are doing a really great job. And Justin, I hope I'm answering this in the context that you want, but it sounds like you're investing obviously in your SEO. You are using AI, but you're looking for something that's going to help you to convert those leads a little bit stronger. So, one thing that is coming out, and they're just in a very, very soft launch right now, but it's called Arcuate Health. And it was designed by two neurosurgeons and then another partner who's very heavily invested in the aesthetic space. And they're doing a fantastic job at building psychology into this AI that is serving as a receptionist. The first one that I have, oh, sorry, do we need to pivot,
No
Dawn?
worries.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The first receptionist that I've seen that has made me excited. They're doing a really great job. It sounds very natural. It's extremely sensitive to learning. So to Audrey's point, I know she's brought that out a couple of times this evening. Like we need to make sure, and Leslie also did a great job educating us on the differences. So this AI is incredibly smart, but it's the first one, like I said, that I've seen that's really building in that psychology, which is important to you for your leads. Because again, going back to data, certain leads may have some measure of history behind it, where, say, for instance, somebody's coming in from Google at this time of the day or on this day of the week, they may be more inclined to be converted easier. Whereas somebody who's coming in at 3 a.m. from Facebook, we know that that matches with somebody who's scrolling and can't sleep and they're not necessarily taking it seriously. This AI can get smart enough to understand those nuances and then engage with these people appropriately. And then Insight X, which I believe they just redid their name to Lume. I hope I'm saying that right. But he really built out a great platform that reads data from the software and the programs that you're using. So again, if you can gather data, gather points that are going to make a difference in your practice, then you'd be able to implement those into making better decisions with your SEO and your ad spend and how you're going to approach things. You can just get a lot more granular and less surface level with it. So I hope those help, but they're great teams, they're great people, and they're great, great products. So I think it's definitely worth a conversation with them.
Love that. Thank you very much,
Thank
Bridget.
you.
There you go, Justin.
I would second
Audrey.
Illume. It's going to plug into everything. It's going to give you that real-time dashboard of everything so you can really evaluate. The other one, I just listened to a podcast by the creators, Market Storm. They're actually creating a SEO that is basically like before you're searching Botox in my area, it's linking to the psychology, like Bridget said. What are people searching before they even search Botox? We want to show them. We want to show up on all of their 18 devices, which I guess is the average for Americans, is to have 18 devices. So they're searching the psychology and doing the research and the learning of before someone goes and searches before and after lip filler, they're already sending it to them. They're telling them what they want by what they're searching, what they're spending time on TikTok, if it's skincare, at home treatments for that, they're already doing that. So I think that's, an also thing, especially because you mentioned SEO in Google too. So that's a one worth checking out as well.
I've heard great things about
Amazing.
them.
I really like the options here we got going on for Justin. So Justin, you got the options. Just figure out where you want to start. And yeah, with that being said, thank you, panelists, for joining in on that round robin session. That very organic registrant and live Q&A session. Now let's keep it moving. Let's see. We got a few more minutes. Right. So okay. Back to you, Leslie. What are some of the observable behaviors that within 30 days shows that a practice is using AI with discipline rather than just layering tools onto existing workflows?
Well, it goes back to everything we've been talking about. I mean, the main thing is that if I'm on the outside looking in, I'm going to notice that you're probably going to have some sort of interactive AI agent on your website talking to me. And you should be plugging that in with all of your treatments, all the things that you do. So the people who are scrolling, because I forget, I heard the stat. I was speaking at LAMCA a couple of weeks back, and someone had said that people are booking at like 10 o'clock p.m. I was like, that's crazy. I'm asleep. But in any case, but because, and so I would say that is the first thing you're going to see. The second thing you're going to see is that is showing a more disciplined approach is that you're going to see like automated reminders coming in. That's pretty table stakes now, though. Everyone gets those. And maybe you're having your pre-treatment instructions coming, automated. Maybe you're getting a review note after you have your treatment and says, hey, if you enjoyed your service, please leave a review on Google, and it's coming within 24 hours. So those are just like workflows that are built out. So you're going to notice that. And I think that's what you're really going to notice, because I don't think people are using AI in much more than those ways right now. It's just like workflow, like how they're seeing someone coming in. The back end is something else completely. That's usually on the backs of like whatever EMR you're using or whatever marketing company that you're working with. Most of these companies are working on insulating the practices from having to deal with all that back end, because there's a lot of network science that goes into it that we can't even touch if we're going to be completely 100%. So,
Right.
and I would say also in your calendar, if you have an AI in your EMR, your calendar system that kind of like tracks trends in how you're even booking your appointments, you're going to notice less bottlenecks there, and cleaner scheduling flow, because it might say, oh, okay, if this person's looking for it might automatically say this type of appointment is 30 minutes. This type of appointment is usually an hour. So that, again, depends on the strength of your tech stack. And so if you guys are trying to figure this out with like Claude and bots, please stop doing that. Just work with a company that is insulating you from that stuff and has those things built in. And, with your team, you're going to notice that there's less repetitive things. And so they're going to be doing less repetitive things in the practice. And a lot of those things are going to be more automated. Yes, they still need to be overseen by a human, but if you see more of that discipline coming in with AI, you're going to be noticing that people have a little bit more time now. And they're not sending out manual letters, or in the case of a practice that I was working with, she created a treatment plan tracker or have you. She was like, oh, I sent out 10 treatment plans by the end of the day. She reviewed everything, but she just sent it out and she felt so happy about that. So yeah, so that's what I would say. If you're going to see more discipline, that's what you will see.
Check. Now, thanks, Leslie, for that. And now, Bridget, if a practice could pilot only one AI use case this quarter, how should they choose the highest impact starting point?
Time. What's going to give you and your team time back, because then that's going to implement or impact so many other things. If you can free up some of that time and effort and energy, then you'll be able to put that into many other things. So I would start there and then build out.
Okay. I think I was just curious as to how would you prioritize? Because in the previous answers we got, we you were able to give us, where to really look for. But I would be really curious as to how would you prioritize that?
How would I prioritize
Yeah, where to start at?
where to start? Again, let's go back to what the goals of the practice are, the three main goals for the year, right? Like, where are we trying to go? What are we trying to accomplish? And then we can take a look at the different AI agents that are available that could build into that. So, if one of the goals is to get another provider busier, okay, well, then perhaps we could look into an AI that is going to help with pattern recognition and doing more reach out and doing more reminders and helping to navigate what specials are performing better than others. If your priority is to try to make sure that you're running on time with your schedule and making sure that you're seeing patients in an appropriate way and minimizing the frustration, because I know that sounds small, but I can't tell you how many practices struggle with that. It is a constant problem because you want the people in your chair to feel like they're getting the attention and the recognition that they deserve for this special treatment, but everybody will take any time that you will give them. So, to Leslie's point, finding a way to optimize the schedule and seeing patterns like, hey, this patient books for 45 minutes, but she's always in here for an hour and a half. Like, if you can learn those types of things and then adjust accordingly, it can make a huge difference. So just really honing in on what your specific goal is will allow you to then pick what AI agent or method or products is going to make the
Right.
biggest difference for you as you move forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Bridget, for that clarification. Um, and now, Audrey, which single metric best shows that AI is improving patient communication rather than increasing edits, escalations, or internal confusion?
So I think for going back to why are we bringing on this AI? What's the tool? What are you starting with? What are you going to measure? That's the first thing. Going back to that. So, especially if it's about patient communication, if you have a low rebooking rate, if your lifetime value, or you have a lot of liabilities, I'm obviously going to judge that. Also, having that one person that is kind of gathering all the information if there's anything that needs to flag. Um, the biggest thing is that your time is back to what Bridget is saying. How much time are your front desk, are your managers spending just with patient communication that is repetitive? There's, if anything, it needs to be escalated or it's clinical, of course, that needs to be human. But everything that we want them to do to create a synonymous, great, thriving med spa is not the repetitive task. That's not what you need them doing. And they have so much other time to make your practice better and thrive as well too. So I would say, again, with the ROI of it, what are you losing without automating these as well too? And you have more time. I would say if you're looking at rebooking rate, but tie it back to why you're actually bringing this on and measure it, and then keep the company that you're hiring on humble. But how much time is it going to save you, and how much time is it going to save your front desk staff when they can be doing so many other things in your practice?
I really like that, not the repetitive tasks, but rather the white glove service that really makes the med spa industry what it is,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, no one wants to come in the front desk and they're on the phones because they just got in 20 leads the next day and they're, hanging up, leaving voicemails. You want them to give that white glove service, that 5-star service when they walk in. That's my pet peeve is when I walk in and someone's on the phone. Like, imagine if someone was just handling all your leads and they could give the one-on-one time, come around, happy birthday, how are you doing since your past like son's wedding or anything like that. They have more time to pay attention to that. I've already pulled up your next skincare up here. So nice to see you. Instead of you're on the phone talking to all the leads, rescheduling, anything like that, it just creates a better atmosphere in that luxury service that I'm sure almost all practices are looking for.
Absolutely. Now we are here at the top of the hour. In 30 seconds, I would love to go around the horn one last time. What is the most important thing an owner must do tomorrow to start their AI journey safely? Leslie?
I would say just, evaluate the software stack that you have right now, your EMR, that's where it starts. Your marketing company that you're working with. Just, for web design is what I'm saying, marketing overall, but web design, just make sure that they front end and back end are kind of doing those repetitive things and they have AI agent, and that when you're with your EMR service that you're looking for things that do track trends on the back end. So it's not just front end stuff, it's back end stuff. And the last thing I'll say about this, and as I always say, I just really think that the practices that are going to win are not going to have every AI stack in the damn world. They're going to be showing up in person. They're going to be connecting with people in their community, because that is what's going to win, because everyone's going to start looking the same. And I've already seen it. People are looking the same, talking the same. Their captions are the damn same. It's terrible. And so what's going to happen is that you need to be going back in person and you need to cultivate your voice and your team's voice and your community presence. And that's more important than any of all of this, in my opinion. But still use AI, but don't forget that we're humans.
It's time for bed.
Oh, Alexa just told me it's time for bed.
You put it to sleep,
Right.
girl. You just gave it all. That was great.
Right on time. Bridget, what's
Well,
your key takeaway here? Go ahead.
building on that, so after you do what Leslie said, because I'm in full alignment with everything that she just shared, then I think you bring it to your team and you really talk to them and you ask them, where do we need the help? Where do you need the support? Where can we streamline? Where can we simplify? What's going to make you most excited? Because at the end of the day, if you bring a fantastic tool in and the team is not buying into it, it will not matter. A tool is still a tool. It needs humans to work with it. So I think find that great tool, vet it, make sure you have something that's working amazingly, but then bring that human element back to it and make sure that they are committed and excited about it as well. And then you can take it from there and continue to expand.
There we go. Audrey?
I'm going to piggyback on what Leslie said. Tomorrow, call your CRM, call your ERM, and see what they already offer. They probably have a lot of AI options. When you're doing that, get the information, go back to what's important to you, go back to your team on repetitive tasks, what they feel they could do with that time. What do you want? Go back to what do you want to improve, and then go back to them and start one by one, because they all have a lot, but also set those times and just let them know, hey, I want to meet in 30 days, every 30 days while we're implementing this, to give you feedback. I want to make sure that it's learning and doing better, because if you're not, if it's not learning, it's just an automated text, anything like that. So you want it to be learning and also have that human communication. You need to audit everything. You should be able to see the workflow and you should experience exactly what your staff and your clients are going to experience as well.
Check. Love that. Really appreciate these wonderful key takeaways. And I really do hope that our attendees and our listeners on demand view these and put it to good use starting tomorrow morning. Now, as we wrap up the session here, I do want to make a quick reminder to our audience that the future isn't about AI replacing you, as resonated with a lot of our panelists here tonight. It's about you becoming more human, because AI is handling the heavy lifting. And don't forget to secure your marketing strategy meeting with Echo Marketing. The link is in the chat. They'll help you figure out how you can really automate those repetitive tasks that'll get you the high value patients that you desire to serve with that white glove service. So allowing you to do what you do best, take care of your patients while they get the patient for you. So figure out how that goes by booking that meeting. The link is in the chat one last time for you to have a look. Now, we have covered everything from under the radar adoption of AI to the single metric that determines success. Leslie, Bridget, Audrey, thank you so much for your mastery tonight.